understanding that the productivity first must be the driver of all the governance. So that means that the governance initiatives and the business goals need to be fully aligned. That also means that the sort of use cases that are being used, that you need to know by 2nd of August this year, when the EU AI Act, for those that are operating in EU, which is probably everybody, you need to document those for sensitive and for the other purpose use case. So you need to know your use cases. And you need to identify them. There you need to have data to be able to do things in data-driven way instead of asking the employees, so what would be the use cases you run? And then you need to know your super prompters. These are people who are actually extremely competent in getting answers from AI. These are people who are natural in doing that. And these are people who you don't find by looking at the title or the education or anything like that, but these people are just naturals talking to the AI. And you can use them as change agents within the organization, because as the economist thinks, if something impacts the country's GDP, they think, is there a technology that can make an impact? Yes, there's AI. Is the technology being used? Well, you need to get the usage up in an organization, lessen the friction, and making sure that the employees are trying their best to find the right things to use AI for. And then lastly, it is about skill. And the skill is something that, like I said, for some it comes naturally, for most it doesn't. Secondly, you need to have security shift right. So last, I don't know, almost 10 years, at least 5, there has been a lot of talk about security shift left. That means that you label everything, you structurize everything, you put things into context, you know exactly where your sensitive data is. Now, shift right means that you need to inspect everything in context at that very moment on a fly. And the big difference is that even you have done all the structurizing of your data, there's like the AI app with the prompt window, you can drag and drop any document in there. And that means that unless you do the real-time or shift-right inspection and categorization, you really are going to miss something. You need to remove ambiguity from the users and making sure that the users understand that the companies got their back and tell the users what's allowed, what's not allowed. So being extremely clear about that. And normally, companies are doing these through trainings. That's one really important part of it. But it is a change project, a change management project, as with any bigger IT system change. The thing is that today, with the AI, the IT system is not controlled, because people can go to different AIs, and if they can't use the company tools, they will go home and do exactly the same. And then adapting the policies so that the real usage is the basis, and again, productivity first has to be the mindset. Then the third thing which is going to be looked at is the confidence and accountability. These go hand in hand, flip side of the coin. So the users need to feel confident, and it's the CISO's job to find ways on making the users confident in using AI. You need to have trusted and frictionless user experience. Frictionless, I mean, if you are told that, okay, there's an error, you are not allowed to use Claude, and then the user really wants to use Claude because he heard or she heard from the friend that it's the best thing there is. So then the end result is that the user takes the prompt and goes home with the personal computer, does exactly the same, most likely with a free plan, and that's where the company data just went to model training into the LLM. Guiding real time, this is a tough one. So developers and for example, using Claude Code, there's huge amount of stuff that they get done during a day, huge amount of code. You need to find ways on guiding them, checking the code, ensuring that there are gates. And in the software development process, for example, you have those gates. You just need to repurpose them to cater for the AI-driven code, which is a lot more. And then you need to understand who are the riskiest users. That's like with any security. You just need to monitor the behavior, you need to monitor the capabilities, and if somebody starts all of a sudden bumping guardrails a lot. So, the takeaways for the opening. Attack. Your employees, developers, they are already using AI. So that's not a discussion anymore. You need to make sure that you protect your data in the right way. There was a research paper by Anthropic and Turing Institute in UK that says that it takes 250 documents to train a new topic to an LLM. And if you think about 3,000 people organization, it's probably done before lunch. So it's not the needle in the haystack. AI is new to everybody. So it's new to the adversaries, but it's also new to the companies, and it's new to the employees. And the end user experience is the key here. So holding and enabling them, guiding them, holding accountable, be it the developer, be it the, accounting or finance person working. And the governance. You need to have visibility, you need to have business alignment, you need to have agility in your policies. You must sort of operate with productivity first in order to actually get any risk mitigated and actually enable the adoption and based on usage, take those decisions that you need to do. Today, we are going to be hearing from multiple vendors, different perspectives, what and how are they going to be helping the CISO and the companies to solve problems when it comes to AI. First, I would like to ask Bitdefender and...
Hi everybody, I'm Mark Olding from Bitdefender. There we go, let's get on the right slides. And obviously AI is being used by everybody today, whether you're like me and you just want to sound a little bit more professional in emails, or whether you're writing code, or whatever you're doing, you're probably using some element of AI. It's great for saving time, obviously, it's a great productivity tool, but as with any new technology that's developed, it's not long before the bad guys start looking at this and thinking, well, how can we use this? One of the main things we see is social engineering. We're not hearing from our Nigerian prince anymore, and people like that. We're now hearing natural language that speaks to us directly. It's a lot more convincing than it used to be. And with the advent of deepfake, the attackers can now video call you. They can sound like you, they can look like you, they know who you are, and they can use that. We also see developments in things like supply chain, ransomware, and really it's still, the motivation is still the same. It's just a new tool set to get the login, get the credentials so that they can log into your machine. When they're in the machine, we've seen a change in the way that they behave. So it used to be an attacker gets onto a machine, they install their software, and then they use that for their attack. We don't really see that now. What we see is what we call living off the land attacks. So living off the land is what tools are already there? What can I use, or what can I trick people into using that isn't going to be detected? A company isn't going to blanket block PowerShell because it has a lot of uses. And there's actually over 200 different binaries and tools within your standard Windows 11 installation that can be used in this way. So they're logging in, they're blending in by using what's already there. And we see this in actually over 70% of attacks today. We also see that attackers tend to use a playbook. So they'll get in and they'll do A, B, and C because they know that results in D. And a lot of this attack surface, a lot of those 200 tools that attackers can use, users don't use. So they're there for the minority of people who are maybe experts in Windows or maybe do specific tasks, but they're not generally used across the board. One new example that we've seen arise in recently is something called click-fix. So click-fix is a type of attack that tricks the user into copying and pasting code into PowerShell. So you'll go to a website or you'll open a document, you'll get an error message that comes up, it's branded properly, it's worded properly, and it says, for whatever reason, you can't access this, but it's all right, it's nice and easy to fix. Copy this code and paste it into here, click go, and the problem will be fixed. Only, of course, the problem isn't fixed, you're giving the attackers access to the machine. At the same time, as we've heard already today, and I'm sure we'll hear throughout the day, government is strongly encouraging people to develop AI because it is the future. Like I say, it's a great productivity tool. So we have things like the EU AI Act. That's then interpreted by the Irish government into the Regulation of Artificial Intelligence Bill, and then also the driver behind it, Ireland's National Digital AI Strategy. Now, if you don't know what these things are, you can think of the EU AI Act as what are the rules in developing, what are the best practices in developing AI, and the Irish AI Bill translates that into Irish business. So how should Irish businesses be developing AI? And then the AI strategy is really about how do we all benefit from AI? Why should we be developing it? What's the best way to go about doing it? Now, the thing is, with the developments of these tools, as I was mentioning before, the more advanced tools that get developed using AI also gives the attackers more tools that they can use. The good news is Bitdefender can help you defend your environments. We have things like endpoint protection, EDR and MDR, where we can track the attacks and shut them down quicker, and then XDR, where we can look beyond the end user machine. I'd also like to introduce Phaser, which is a great example of how AI can be used for good. Phaser is the first tailored hardening solution. So what it does is uses AI to understand the users, what are they using, what do the attackers use, and how do we block anything that doesn't need to be used. So we move from a one-size-fits-all hardening solution where we're going to block PowerShell across the entire company. Then you have to fiddle around figuring out who actually uses it and how they use it. Phaser takes it down to the user level and takes a lot of the hard work out of it. So it avoids those rigid policies and it closes that attack vector. We can actually reduce the attack surface by up to 95% with using Phaser with very little effort from yourselves. So like I say, we monitor and learn user behavior, and AI looks at the individual user, watches them for about a month to understand what tools are you actually using. We correlate that with what we see on the attack surface. So what are the bad guys using? How are they using AI? What tools are they using? And then we identify where we can block those tools that are being used. We then cluster this together as rules. So if we're looking at individual user level and we're creating a rule set on those user level, obviously you could end up with 200 or 300 rules, which you don't want to manage. So we cluster all those together so you end up with kind of 4 or 5 rules. We can then use that to greatly reduce the attack surface, and then we go back into the monitoring phase again. It's very, very easy to set up. It's very, very easy to use because it can be largely automated. You install the agent. If you're already a Bitdefender customer, you don't even need to install anything. It's already there. We then learn and gather EDR-style telemetry. So again, if you're a Bitdefender customer and you're using EDR, we've already got all the information we need for Phaser, so there's not even a learning period. And then we start blocking the things that you're not using. So for the user's perspective, they don't even know that things are being blocked because they weren't using it anyway. From the attacker's perspective, if they come in, they can't use the tools that they've come to use. So their attack is thwarted, their playbook is thrown out the window. And then you can manage it in one of 2 ways. Either autopilot, where Phaser will do everything for you. It will decide what needs to be blocked and block it. You can manually override if you want to. or you can use direct control where we produce the rules and then you approve them and say, yeah, these things should be blocked, or no, they shouldn't. If a user changes their role, so all of a sudden they need to use PowerShell or another one of the 200 binaries, they can request access. So that's the only time that you will need to step in and kind of say, yeah, I approve that, move them over to this other rule. But again, it's made very, very simple to do. The other side of it is, like I say, we produce the rules and you turn them on or off as you need to. And the kind of things we're looking at, and you can set autopilot or direct control at any of these levels. We'll look at LOL bins, tampering tools, crypto miners, hacking tools, and then remote admin tools. So you might think remote admin tools, I want more control over that, but the rest of it I want to autopilot. That's absolutely fine, you can do that. So again, it's tailored. We go right down to that user level. So we understand who's using what, when are they using it, how are they using it. And again, we can block within a particular binary. So if you are using, for example, PowerShell, we will look at how you're using it. And we will say, okay, well, you don't normally try to escalate your privileges using PowerShell. You don't normally try and exfiltrate data. You don't normally try and create other admin accounts on the machine. So we're not going to let you do that stuff. But we are going to let you do whatever you would normally do. So it's dynamic. It watches user behavior and it will react and change to it. And it's precise because, again, we're taking it right down to the user level. So if you want to know more about Phaser or any other Bitdefender products, we do have a stand downstairs, so do come and talk to us. But I hope that's been useful and informative.
Thank you. Now let me try again. So Adam and security scorecard, so I hope I got it right this time. Yeah. And once more, apologies.
No problem. Great stuff. Well, good afternoon, everybody. As I've just been introduced there, my name's Adam. I work for Security Scorecard. We are a cybersecurity supply chain detection and response solution. What I'm going to talk to you today, really a little bit of similar topics to some of the other points that are probably going to come up, but really about leveraging AI correctly and how do we apply that rather than potentially just broad strokes. So in the next 10 minutes or so, I'll keep it relatively brief. We're going to look at a few ways in which we can see the application of AI, how that threat landscape is changing. Some of you may have seen the Anthropic November release where the GT002, I think it was, Chinese threat actors pretty much automated the entire attack chain, which was, yeah, pretty scary. And then how we can move ourselves from where we're at today with traditional onboarding of suppliers and maybe looking a little bit more into how we apply continuous threat-informed approaches. I must apologize for the coloring scheme. This was not my idea, but it's going to look a little bit crazy. You'll have some fun with that, hopefully. So when we talk about AI, I think perhaps we're almost a little bit guilty of just saying AI as this big bucket, as if it's just an ocean of capabilities. But really, when we think about it, it's made up of multiple different capabilities of structured and unstructured. We mentioned this earlier, supervised, unsupervised, whether we're doing generative capabilities or just model learning. And the application of this is really, really important. If I don't want to have a chatbot functionality to do mass data analytics on targeted data. I want to use predictive capabilities on large data so that I can assess where the risk is in my supply chain. But I don't really want to use an agent or an agentic approach because those are really procedural steps where I can build a set of structures that I can then rinse and repeat, which is not something we really want to be doing. One of the things I do want to call out massively, unfortunately, some companies don't feel this way, humans must absolutely be included in the loop. I've seen some horrendous application of AI. The hallucinations are damning, to say the least, and it's really, really important that whilst these tools allow us to get to a point where we can scale our third-party risk approach, not looking at 10 or 20 vendors, looking at 10 or 20,000 vendors, it is still the human that makes the distinction between what is risk and what is not risk. So if we then look at what that threat landscape looks like, the AI attack example here, I won't go into huge or massive amounts of detail. We saw, I think it was November, Anthropic released this notification about a threat actor in China or threat actors in China who essentially completely automated the attack, from reconnaissance to exploitation to exfiltration. Only 10% approximately of that time was the threat actor informing or notifying the AI of what it needed to do. Most of it was instructed and then left to perform its action, which, I don't know about you, that seems pretty crazy in terms of its capabilities and how far it's come. And effectively, the threat actor became the advisor. Come back to me when you've got something to talk about, and I will tweak and move and tweak and move. A little bit like we want to do when we're defending. It's the same for the attackers as well, and I think the point has already been made, and it will be made across the board. Now, automation in itself, again, is nothing new. We've been hearing this for years and years, whether you're talking about Henry Ford and the cars, or you're moving forward into any kind of orchestration or any kind of understanding of what risk is. The attackers are approaching this with rapid response. Now, in this case, Anthropic turned around and said, we found out that, yes, our engine got compromised. Yes, it was convinced it was doing something positive when actually it was doing something bad, and we've shut the loop this time. It's going to be an ongoing trend that we'll see going forward. So if we think about traditional TPRM, what does that look like? I'm certainly not going to teach those of you in the room that do this to suck eggs, but I think it's pretty standard, and we'll share these slides as well. The approach is, at contracting, onboard our vendor, we're going to exchange some information, usually documents, certifications. We're going to look at them. Are they appropriate? Do they affect how we're going to do business with an organization? Then we're going to suggest some remediations. I see some risks here. I see some exposures there. What I'd like you to do is fix them, and then we're going to contract. That seems to be a standard TPRM workflow that exists today. Now, the issue with this, or the concern around this, is it's very much point in time. So it means that we assess the risk of a third party that we work with at the beginning of the contract, and then we don't do again until we either change that vendor out or re-onboard them again in a year's time. Now, a lot can happen in a month, even a week, it seems like nowadays. And so being able to take that assessment and do that continuously sounds like a great idea in theory, but in practice, that sounds like a lot of headcount, that sounds like a lot of people, that sounds like a lot of effort. So what Security Scorecard is talking about is moving the traditional focus for TPRM and taking the individuals that work on third-party risk today, and onboarding in particular, and moving them up the abstraction layer. So in technical terms, if anyone's ever worked with the OSI 7-layer model, maybe a university or back in the day, it's about the awareness of the lower levels of analysis, but the higher levels are taking more control. So the user's just moving up that. So rather than looking at CVE version X, whatever, or looking at a specific issue, what we're saying is let the AI manage, understand, work out the context, and then prompt that AI to assess or at least be aware of what that risk would look like. So in this case, if I'm bringing on 10,000 vendors, there are certain things that I can use agents for, which will take certain data sets around risk, low risk, high risk, financial impact, etc., and then automatically assign the impact analysis of that vendor for the operator to then do their analysis. So if I'm a high risk vendor, do I really need to go through and check all the information manually? No, that can be automated. What I can then do is take that, assign it to a correct assessor or an analyst, and that person can then look at the information going forward. So what does it look like when we talk about moving the analyst up the abstraction layer and shifting the focus? Basically, it's applying predictive models to large amounts of data. So if I know that there's a particular vulnerability out there, I want to be able to see how this impacts my 10,000 vendors, where it impacts, at what time, and what I then need to do. The human in the loop is important, but what's great about some of the more chatbot-focused capabilities is that I can now articulate a problem that might have been only appropriate for a very technical audience. I can now articulate that to someone using a vernacular that's at their level and an understanding that's at their level without diminishing the value of the assessment itself. I can invert the orchestration, so if the attackers are using automations to attack, well then I should be doing the same for defending. Similar to the red teaming and blue teaming, I want to have the same approach for both. And then I want to be able to then take that action and automatically create work for my suppliers or my third parties to say, this is your highest area of risk, this is the maximum amount of context. I'm not asking you to fill out a 500-question questionnaire, although they are important to understand. What I'm asking you to do is to remove the highest risk and the highest exposure within your environment. So what does this look like in practical terms? Here's an example that I've kind of put together. It's effectively saying I have 1,682 suppliers. Something new happened, some vulnerability, exposure, SSH, you name it, it doesn't really matter. And what I want to be able to do is create and use multiple different types of AI for appropriate uses. So in this case, I can use predictive AI to go and look over all the data we've collected to find out which organizations are affected. The second part, I can use a more conversational AI to understand, well, what does this actually mean in my terms of what this breach or this particular type of exposure is? And then I want to again use more predictive models and more collected data to get contextualized data about what that risk is and what it looks like. I can then use an agent to automatically generate a remediation and action plan going forward, send that out to my supplier so that they only get the targeted requirement of this needs to be fixed and this is why. So all of these things are stitched together in a process that will hopefully, and I do say hopefully, make things a lot easier for individuals, but allow them to actually scale. The risk does not sit in your top 10 providers, they sit in your entire supply chain. AI is something that allows you to do that. Another practical analysis here, or a way in which we can assess risk or policy, is doing things like document analysis. How many of the people in the room have received a SOC report or a policy report, and they've gone through and they've had to look and manually ask questions of themselves about the content of those policies and those questionnaires and those information sets? Well, again, AI is very, very good. We just heard about the 250 documents to train the model. It's very, very good at being able to assess large amounts of data and then provide you context based upon your own profile of what risk looks like. So, again, this is just a few examples. I won't labour the point a little bit. We can do automatic generation. This is just giving you some insights into how Security Scorecard does this today. But it's just some tangible capabilities of, I'm not talking about theory, I'm talking about practicality. So, hopefully, we learned something. If not, I apologise. But the conclusions really are the attack surface is changing. I think you're going to hear that across the panellists here today, I would imagine. Using AI appropriately is really, really going to be fundamental. We probably seen in the news about things like appropriate use of tokens and how much it's going to cost, and the AI companies are giving it away for free now to hook you in, and then you're addicted for life kind of approach. Well, you know, appropriate use of AI is also going to be really, really key in understanding and maximizing the value there. That's something that we really want to be focusing on. Combinations and most definitely humans in the loop are exactly what we need to be keeping an eye on. Those that think 100% automation is a good thing, maybe they're right, but from experience and from what I've seen, they are drastically and dangerously, more importantly, wrong in that regard. So humans in the loop to make distinctive and detailed, complex decisions, moving up the abstraction layer is an absolute requirement when we're talking about AI going forward. Thank you very much, and I will hand you over to
thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
And over to you, Secure and Molly. And meanwhile, so if you have questions, we will take questions at the end. So hold the thought, and over to you, Molly.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Molly McManaman, and I'm the Head of Sales Development at USecure. We are a human risk management tool that supports organizations to contain the human errors that are associated with things like impersonation attacks, cyber breaches, and everything that we do is embedded with automation and AI. And so this is going to be a really great discussion for us to be a part of today. And looking forward to sharing that with you. You're probably wondering why a sales leader is up here. I am about as technical as a pencil, but I am close to these conversations with IT leaders and MSPs as well. So looking forward to sharing more with you. So we know that businesses are increasingly having to report on things like compliance. They need to be more audit ready than ever and be able to evidence that in a really quick fashion. For the MSPs in the room, you'll know that you've had to shift from being a trusted advisor when it comes to service delivery to being more of an advisor on things like compliance and security. And in a world where AI is only increasing that threat, we want to make sure that we're really dealing with that in a way that is admin-free and makes you able to deploy that at scale in a way that suits your business. But there is a problem with that, and if I was going to ask any of you in the room what your biggest challenge was when it comes to deploying or giving time to something like human risk management, I imagine a lot of you would say that it's time and efficiency. And we want to mitigate that risk for you. We want to make it as easy as possible to deal with threats as and when they come and as they evolve. So how do we do it? This is what we call the USecure efficiency engine. And it's our model that we use both internally and with our clients to make sure that we're covering the full spectrum of human risk. We start by identifying the key high areas of risk within the business with a 36-question questionnaire to understand the real vulnerabilities of each individual user. We then train them based on those individual gaps to make sure that we're addressing the risk and meeting the individual where they are. In the background, we are monitoring for breached credentials right from when they're onboarded into the platform. And then we verify, we track, and we measure trends over time to make sure we're staying on top of those risks as they evolve. But what does that look like in practice? So we start by uploading, whether you are an MSP or you're an IT leader, uploading all of your user base onto the platform. It typically takes 15 minutes, very quick to upload. Whether you're using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, we then automatically enroll everyone onto a breach data scan to make sure that we're staying on top of it right from the get-go. They'll get a gap analysis, they'll be enrolled on training based on their personal gaps. You see where this is going. They get phishing simulations in combination with that to make sure we're testing them consistently based on trends that we're also seeing. We want to see the behavior change, why they engage with these topics and these emails, and what we can do about it off the back of them engaging with those phishing emails. They'll get delivered policies in a centralized place, reminders, and then reporting to make sure that we are doing that in a really efficient way and making it easy for you as a manager to be able to detect and report on what we're doing and human risk. So we want to give you the ability to do more, but with less. For the MSPs, we want to make sure that you have the ability to deploy this to all of your clients. And we know that when compliance typically changes, it's usually because of some kind of technological advance. And we now know that that is because AI is amplifying that human risk, and so compliance is getting stronger. We want you to be able to report on compliance in an easy and effective way as AI grows. So, what does this get you? If you're an MSP, this allows you to add recurring revenue without increasing admin. It gives you the ability to deploy everything in minutes, minimize those modern cyber risks as and when they come, and support things like cyber insurance, compliance, and the conversations in relation to that as well. But who are we? We are, like I mentioned at the beginning, we do everything with automation, integration, and engagement with modern risks in mind. We want to scale with you as these evolving threats grow as well. So if you'd like to have a conversation about that, we are downstairs. We'd love to show you what that does look like in practice for you and your business, and happy to chat about it later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. And we have No Threat and Colin on stage. Over to you.
Thank you. Good. Is it still morning? It is, yes. Good morning, everybody. I've only got 86 slides, so buckle up. A lot of you will not have heard of No Threat, and there's a number of reasons for that. I was looking for a role, and I was approached by No Threat, and what appealed to me was the technology and how it will make a difference. Years and years and years ago, I'll keep this brief, by the way. Years and years ago, I worked for FireEye, and as a simple salesman, I looked at FireEye technology and thought, I can sell that. That's really good, because it was way in advance of anything else. So when I was looking at No Threat, I actually thought, well, if it's as good as they say it is, hang on, do I put the, there we go. I'm Colin, by the way. When I was looking at No Threat, I thought, well, okay, it's brilliant, but is it as good as they say it is? So I I got in touch with a friend of mine who works for one of the largest systems integrators globally, actually, and has a sales team of 40 security consultants. And I said, can you just have a look at this and tell me, is it as good? Can you find any faults? Because that's what he does best, basically. So we had a number of conversations, demonstrations, and he said, look, it's really, really cool stuff. So long story short, he's actually joining us in June to become our CTO. And like I say, he's leaving one of the biggest systems integrators globally. So just to give you a little idea of, of where we are. But, so we're good in this industry with three-letter acronyms. LLM, large language modules, they're shaping the current landscape. Attacks are increasingly sophisticated, and as we know, we're all working in a slightly dystopian environment. Conventional security is reliant on signature-based solutions, and fundamentally, this is just completely out of date at this stage. I think this slide is vital, as the idea of addressing zero-day attacks is really, really a natural focus for any vendor. And I think our industry and organizations, because they're hopelessly dependent on signature-based solutions, effectively what we're doing here is preparing for the last war, and it's tantamount to rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, right? So we've got to move on. And I think that's what we're doing, and hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate that to you when you come downstairs. Human behavior has been mentioned a couple of times, and realistically, it's a massive problem. Finding the problem in advance is naturally the best way to block an attack. Our solution works on a preemptive model using very, very significant and clever deception technology. So, but nothing we do or promote suggests or changing your architecture. No, we're saying take stuff out and replace it with no threat. What we're saying is we will just complement your existing spend. So this is clearly nirvana, and I think this is one of the reasons I got my friend to have a look at, can we justify zero false positives, zero days, bit of a mouthful, and zero human intervention? And can it be deployed in minutes, and can we address the IoT market? And without over-promising, we've looked at the immediate issues and taken a different way forward. The technology is planning ahead to ensure SOC analysts are getting information that is not just white noise. I've worked for SIEM vendors in the past too, Logarithm and Securonics. And whilst they're great at correlating logs and flagging up information, there's a ton of noise associated with that. What we do is actually completely take that away. So there are no zero false positives. It's whatever you get delivered to your SOC or your analyst is going to be something that they need to focus on. So what we've done in terms of protecting the enterprise, we're now applying to. Actually, can you see that, by the way? Does it say Vanguard on there somewhere? I can't see it here. Yeah? Okay, so Vanguard, I'll come on to Vanguard again in a minute, but basically what we're doing is, apart from deploying onto a network, we're actually building it into an OEM device, which, so it'll be a switch that you can deploy internally, so therefore your network becomes its own security, and it's doing it autonomously, and once again, no human intervention required. It's already built in. So that's a relief on resources, of course. So here's a summary of how no threat can help. CISOs like that it's not highlighting any strategic decisions that might be incorrect, because we're complementing an existing infrastructure. And once again, it's preemptive. It's happening at machine speed, and once again, continuous AI intelligence that just adds value to your overall security posture. going back to Vanguard, it is an OEM device, which will be branded under no threat. Nothing like it exists on the market, to our knowledge. So it just, once again, it's just taking the view on security and the posture for adoption of security solutions just to another stage or another, another level, basically. And once again, I think the key is we're just doing things a lot more smarter and addressing today's problem rather than, as I said in the previous slide, preparing for the last war. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. And next we hear from Hornet Security. So, Viral, over to you.
Thank you. I seem to have got the graveyard shift, so please bear with me. I know all of you guys are eager for lunch, so I'll make it as quick as possible. So yeah, we're Hornet Security. I don't know if some of you know, but we're now part of Proofpoint, but still a separate engine altogether. But yeah, come and talk to us. So yeah, everything's about AI. As my peers have mentioned it, I'll go into a little bit detail. So I don't know where they've taken this picture from, but it is a bit annoying. But bear in mind, this is a German slide deck because the parent company is in Germany, so they love doing all this sort of stuff, just an FYI. So I'll move very quickly. So it's a simple agenda: who Hornet are, security lab, the scams, AI and ransomware. Our bundle, which is called Total Protection. I know Marcus mentioned questions, but I've just put it in. We can talk it over later on. And we're also downstairs, so please come and see us. So I'm just going to be very quick. Hornet Security, who we are. We're a German-based entity, now US, of course, because of the Proofpoint acquisition. 125,000 customers worldwide, 12,000 partners. And I've kind of done this because we've got end users and MSPs in the same room. So I've devised a presentation accordingly. We've got our own data centers across the world, so data sovereignty comes into play, especially with AI and so on and so forth. So we've got that covered. 700 strong. I think now we're 5,500. So a small company. Complete channel business. So everything goes through our channel. And 17 offices, and I guess that's going up. This is something that I really want to talk to you guys all about. It's called our security lab. So this is our threat intelligence and research center, Hornet base. So we look at everything coming in, and now everything is AI. So we look at every sort of cyber threats. That includes email threats, malware, ransomware, anything that Microsoft 365's posture, if there's any risks, we manage that, we look at that. And our intelligence team then looks at all those type of threats, looks at them, investigates them further, and then we use all the good bits and we put that into our Hornet platform and our total protection tools. So the one thing, of course, we're all here is to listen to about AI, and the biggest issue we've got currently, regardless of what happens, is still email scam. It's the easiest way of sending a message to a user, and AI is now becoming a threat. Attackers are using it really, really well. So are you able to spot the right email? Are you able to spot if there's something wrong with it? And someone mentioned the Nigerian prince. He's gone. Someone's taken his place. But what our tool tends to do is pick up these things that are in AI and then kind of visibly tells you where the gaps are. And I've just put 3 things. You'll not see it because it's done so really well within AI. So I just want to give you, as I said, email scam, big thing. So what we do is, we've got a tool that looks at that, tells you, yep, it's clean, move on. Our AI tool, attackers are using it, we're using it, everyone needs to use it because we just need to. So our AI tool will pick up all this pattern recognition and so on and so forth. Come downstairs, we can show you a little bit more. So, phishing attacks. That's the most common vector for threats coming through. So we've got some research through our security labs, and we can see almost 20% increase, and that's just going to it's a hockey stick. It's just going to go more and more and more. Who wants to scan this? Any hands? No? Well done. This is a good group. A very good group. So again, this is another QR code. We've got a product that looks at QR code, Q phishing is, or QR, something of that sort, it's called. But again, this is something, again, attackers are putting that into AI, really making it really well, right at the back. And we can see an increase in frauds just using this. I was speaking to a couple of people downstairs, and we mentioned about this QR code. And it's something that needs to be looked at. So one of my colleagues here mentioned about PowerShell as well. It's so easy to just go into PowerShell and using something like Copilot or something of that sort and just putting in some information saying, can you build me a script that goes into your root directory, copies all that information, encrypts it, and then delete it. There is nothing you can do right now because AI is becoming much stronger. How are we going to govern it? So this is just an example. I will share these slides rather than someone jotting it down. But yeah, ransomware is now becoming a big thing. And a lot of you are aware of it as well. So yeah, there is ransomware 1, which was simply just encrypt everything. So attackers were using that quite often. Ransomware 2, as we call it, is double extortion. It's encrypting, and also it's taking your data, customers' data, or employees' data, and that's a big thing. And ransomware 3 is manipulation of data. So I'll come back down to that, where manipulation of data means something within the files or folders has been changed, sent it down. That just stops the business from working the next day because the data in the system is not quite correct as such. And we're seeing a massive increase in these attacks. So I've just given you a simple example, 24%. That's, again, skyrocketing as well. So what are we going to do about this? I don't know if you've heard of EvilGenix. Raise your hands, anyone? So, bloody good tool. Shouldn't be saying this on a thing, but it's a decent. What they did was from 2027, they started using this in their LLM tools and started using that as a service. So ransomware as a service. You can actually buy this, install it, play around with the code for a user who's never done any coding in his life. And we starting to see that quite a bit. That is starting to come through. And what do? This is where the extortion ransomware as a service comes in, where they'll send you a file, right, your stuff has been encrypted. The newest version we've got has actually got a live chat box where you can send a message to the people who are trying to extort data from you to say, I need some help. In the latest version, they've also got a section in there that says, do you want a lawyer? Click here. That is just absolute madness. But it is out there in the market. I'm just going to come back to this. This is one of the other slides that I wanted to talk. So cybercrime is no longer chaos. It's now a business, as you can see. Attackers are getting much faster. We're getting much slower. What are we going to do about it? So what we suggest and what we try to push is you need an AI filter, something that blocks all sorts of incoming nasty stuff. We've got immutable backup as well in our solution stack that helps once you back up, there is no way ransomware can get in. So that's something. We have a compliance set of products as well that looks at security awareness, something that works with SharePoint on the compliance as well as Copilot, because a lot of people are now starting to take Copilot into their businesses or their customers' businesses. But what is the governance behind it? Are you managing that SharePoint the right way? And as I mentioned, we've got a security awareness tool as well. So we're an all-in-one platform. You don't need to get multiple platforms, and everything is there. So what do we do? Simple, finally. I'm almost there at the end. We look after the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. A lot of you guys are Microsoft partners and end customers, so we manage the entire ecosystem, the holistic view of what of 365 does. And we have different components within our stack that helps with AI, the attacks, so on and so forth. So the solution, we have 4 different bundles called the total protection bundles, and in each bundle there is additional services that are added. So plan 1 is just a simply spam and malware. Plan 2 is our advanced threat protection that's got the AI capabilities in there. 3 is the backup, of course, for immutability. And then 4 is where all the juicy bits are, the compliance piece. We have something called multi-tenant manager as well. That's more for partners to manage the customers, but we can talk about that later. So I'll come to the end. I'm almost done. The headline, work smarter, not harder. Tools are out there. Use them to your advantage. Get the right solution for you to protect attackers using AI, because we've got the tools as well for AI as well. So it does work hand in hand. And that's about it. Thank you very much. I'm sure I made it very simple.
Thank you, Viral. And now we'll take some questions. So before we do that, let's do sort of a short poll in the room. So who doesn't use AI in their organization? Can you raise hands? That's what I thought. So it's relevant for everybody. The second question is who actually is using AI with the SaaS applications as part of the process, like Salesforce, HubSpot, and so on? 1, 2, 3, 4. Not many yet. So I'll open the floor for questions. Anybody, any questions? Just please stand up and say it out loud. I can bring you the mic if you want.
So I think shadow applications is a big topic for both enterprises and partners. Be interesting to hear your insights on how you can tackle shadow applications, including shadow AI usage.
All right, anybody from the panel? Cool, I'll take it. That's why we have a facilitator, so I'm the sort of the last line. I think the important thing is to identify the usage. You can identify the usage of applications starting from the network layer, seeing where the traffic goes. You can also see it from the endpoint security perspective if you have proper equipment in place, or you can have purpose-built tools that are geared for identifying specifically, for example, shadow AI or the AI usage in general. Did I answer your question? Awesome. Anything to add? Nothing? Then next question, please.
Already eager to go for lunch.
All right, so I have a couple of questions. So Mark, could you be explaining a little bit, you had Phaser, so what about MSPs? Could you sort of just give a few words about the value for, you don't have to.
Is it on? There we go.
So MSPs and Phaser.
Yeah, so we have an MSP platform. Rather than kind of taking our annual and then shoehorning that into MSPs, we went back to the drawing board and thought, what do MSPs actually need? How do they manage their client base differently to annual business? And we actually rebuilt the entire platform. So if you are an MSP, Bitdefender is a great solution for you. We have things like the ability to manage all of your customers from one login, being able to apply policy across multiple customers, being able to manage customers from that one platform. Also, we do monthly billing. So rather than having to pay annually, you pay for what you use monthly. it will flex up, but it will also flex down. So we literally look how many machines with Bitdefender installed on them were turned on this month, and that's what you pay for. So a lot of companies talk about their MSP models growing upwards, but ours can flex down as well. Phaser is available as part of that. And something I didn't mention earlier, Phaser actually is available standalone as well. So if you are an MSP, you already have an endpoint security vendor, you don't want to switch away from that, or your customers are using something like Defender and they don't want to move away from that, Phaser can be installed and work on its own alongside whatever else you're currently using.
Thank you. Then I had a question for Adam. How does a less mature team get started with AI and manage the tools? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll stand up so you can see me. It really depends on where you're at in your journey. I think the biggest concern I think some people have is they might feel like they're perhaps behind everyone else. It's that feeling of missing out or FOMO, or feeling of not being quite where we should be. The idea is that there is no silver bullet and there is no right or wrong way. There is only participation, right? And I think this is reflected in some of the industry standards such as NIS2 and DORA. They are, I don't need to outrun the bear, I just need to outrun the slowest person. So those that aren't doing anything are in the biggest situational problem that they're facing. And those that are doing something are showing intent. So things like being able to identify who my third parties are is a massive step for a lot of organizations, and that can just get started by as simple as integrating into or pulling data from an ERP solution or a Salesforce or something along those lines and getting full visibility of all my suppliers, and then by extension who their suppliers are as well. From that very easy step of just pulling in those informations, you can then start to be compliant with things like NIS2, so being able to notify on those companies that have had breaches or incidents, 24, 48, 72-hour notice periods, that's really important. Being able to show proactively that you're doing continuous TPRM, so being able to say I'm continuously assessing my risk and identifying where key markers are. These are all massive steps, but with a little bit of work, right? Not a huge amount of work. Now, it then gets up to your orchestration and turning off systems and isolating networks and all that sort of stuff in the really top end of it. But just getting started, visibility is probably the best way forward for anybody that's looking to do any kind of third-party risk plan.
Thank you. So, Viral, could you talk a little bit about the AI tools? Can they really and truly help security teams to move faster?
Stand up as well. Yes, they will. Yes, they can. As everyone knows, AI is coming in. There are tools out there, our tools as well, that help. It's all about helping the security teams get to a stage. So they can help with threat protection, they can help with better email security, they can help with better MFA, for example, better phishing, stopping MFAs as such. So there is products, there are tools out there. Of course, it's not the silver bullet. You need to have some human intervention as well, better security through your security teams, for example. So that is, for me, the way to go forward as such. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Molly, so what do you see the role of AI in improving security awareness, compliance readiness, and measurable outcomes across the business? Could you talk a little bit about that?
I think AI gives both MSPs and IT leaders the ability to really personalize the way that they deliver training off the back of like threats and failures in process. And so like it gives you the ability to do more with less, and being able to automate that, it allows you to continuously address that as well. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you. So, Colin, no threat Vanguard. When can one get it?
Say that again.
Vanguard. When can one get it? And when it's available, and how do you...
Vanguard, sorry, yeah, my apologies. Yeah, so it's actually, we think it's a really exciting innovation because, once again, it's not a retrospective fix. We're building it into the network switch. That will be available, I think, at the latest at the end of this month. So we're really excited about it, and it's becoming a really attractive proposition to our resellers, because when you and end users, because when they are replacing switches, we're not suggesting you do that immediately, but when you do come to they become end of life, then it's definitely worth a consideration to have a look at Vanguard, because it's going to become part of your security solution in the network itself, built in, but two, it's just you'll get the obvious benefit of having a new switch, but you've got the security built in. So, like I say, end of the month.
Awesome. So, thank you everybody for listening and joining the session. All of the vendors are visible and have booth downstairs. So, if you have interest in something or all of them, you still have plenty of time to go through the booth in the afternoon. On my behalf and on everybody in the panel, I thank everybody and have a great day. And I think now we, as you said, stop being in between the lunch. So thank you.